My Roland XP50 repair. The screen kept going off and couldn't perform a factory reset. So I set about researching causes. I came across a video online that showed how to bypass the screen circuit and display the brightness constantly. While inside, I noticed a lot of staining around the caps. After doing more research, I found out that the caps leak over time and would all require replacing. There was a good video online showing this being done and giving details of the caps required. After ordering the wrong size caps the first time, I ordered them again from Mouser in the US, this time the correct size, and set about replacing them one by one. As I removed the individual electrolytic caps, I found the pads came away and a lot of corrosion on the board. I had done some electronic repairs before to things, but nothing like this. After replacing just about everything, I still couldn't get the thing to produce any sound. I had great difficulty at first trying to understand the schematic. Giving up in frustration, I decided to take it to an electronic repair shop in the hope they would find the fault and fix it. Well, after giving them $138 Australian to look at it, and waiting for over 3 months for a reply, they finally got back to me and told me that they could check the work I had done, but this would cost another $600 and they wouldn't guarantee that it would work either. So I would be up for $738 to have my work checked but not necessarily fixed, and it would cost me the price of another second-hand Roland XP50. I decided that it was time to go back and collect it from them and give it another try myself. I don't like giving up, but time and time again, I would remove the caps on the board and replace and repair the pads, making changes each time as I became more and more experienced with what I was doing. Then I would put it all back together and try it, but to no avail. I ordered a Gotek USB emulator rather than bother to fix the floppy that was also not working properly. This is relatively cheap to replace, costing only around $40 Australian from AliExpress. After listening to other YouTube vids, I thought it might be the power supply unit at fault with inconsistent voltage, so I replaced all those caps as well. I got close with some voltages, but as I was never really clear on just what I was measuring, it was hard to tell if I was getting closer or further away. I would fix something and while doing that knock another cap and cause a break in the circuit. I got conflicting advice online as to what I should be seeing in the way of voltage, and after leaving it alone for most of 2024 due to illness, I picked it up again in the later half of 2025 when I was feeling better and pulled it apart once more. I decided for the very first time to enlist the help of ChatGPT. This was both helpful and fateful. While it did try really hard to help, I think because it did not have all the context, it would send me off in all sorts of directions, pulling things off the board and causing more damage. I eventually started to learn how this AI worked and used it a bit more intelligently to get my answers. After about 3 weeks of doing this, I started to understand the board better and replaced quite a few ICs and became better at pad repairs. I later discovered some things others who are repairing their Rolands can use to measure voltages. For instance, the first port of call is the Roland service notes that can be found at https://Roland_XP-50service_notes/page/and17/mode/2up. This wonderful asset will allow you to find all the parts you're looking for and their part numbers so they can be found on the internet if required. I would urge those repairing to check IC19, the DAC found at RS7 on page 18. The ground is connected to a good ground on the chassis of the synth. With an amplifier of some sort, even using an old set of headphones, one can hear the sound of keys being pressed if the DAC is working when the probe is in contact with certain parts. This is how I traced the fault to the capacitors in the muting circuit, being C5, C9 in my case. I had a lot of damage in this area and many traces were lost and vias damaged. It is important to know if sound is coming from the DAC, and if so, just how far it was getting to. If there is no sound coming out of the line outputs but it has been found near the muting circuit, it is possible the muting circuit is still on, grounding the signal so that nothing can be heard. To test this, take a voltage reading in AC on pins 1 of each of Q1 and Q2, found between 6-8F on the service map. This should be a 6.5 volts, if not the muting circuit is still on. The base should be around 28 kΩ, and pin 2OL. If you are having problems here, try checking the other side of the board and look at Q11 and DA9. I had to replace DA9 as it had blown and was not acting as a diode. Another fault area is around Q13. This should read a 5 volts at the base, and 9 volts at the emitter with plus 15 volts at the collector. The emitter goes directly to the positive side of C920, which feeds pins 7 to 8 of the DAC. Diligently go and check all caps refitted to make sure you have proper connection and continuity. I did have to repair several of the cables that just did not hold up to the abuse of keep testing and removing them. I purchased some light cable and soldered on short lengths, then glued them flat so they would be easier to fit back into the connectors. Another tip: I used the core from some house mains cable and stripped the outer cover, and using a hammer I made very thin copper strips that could be cut to size using a pair of scissors. I was able to even make little traces on the sides of these custom pads that would connect to the broken trace on the board. By using this material, I could superglue the pads down and not have them lift so easily when I soldered on the surface-mounted replacement capacitors. They added more stability to the mounting of each capacitor, keeping it in line with what the board looked like when it came from the factory. I have seen others using through the whole capacitor replacements, but this does not look so neat. I wish you good luck with your repair. Author: Robert.